Hi everyone, hope you're having a great day today. I'm Rob Orpilla, one of the core members of the Rural Justice Network, and I'm here with fellow core member Rosangeline. How you doing today?
Doing good. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. So, thanks for coming on to RJN News. We're starting these videos to try to engage with our community a little bit more and spread awareness on topics that folks might either need to be educated about or at least have a source to be able to spread around in hopes to spread more information on topics that we feel are relevant not only to our community but for what's happening in the world today. So, what would you say you came on here today to talk about?
Well, March is Women's History Month, and I wanted to come on here and talk about what it means to identify as a woman, to be a woman, and how the concept of womanhood is different and has changed throughout time and to culture, and even within different subgroups, as well as the harm that trying to put a specific label or definition on womanhood does to to women as a whole. Um, so I wanted to get started by talking about the fact that there really isn't one strict pen on paper look for what an ideal woman should be. You cannot go to any place in the world and say, this is what a woman is, because so many different places, so many different cultures, regions, ethnicities, social subgroups have different signifiers for what is feminine, what does femininity look like, what physical features are attributed with feminine beauty. You might say that long hair is attributed with femininity in the West, but then you look over at East Asian cultures and you will see historically long hair is associated with masculinity. You will see the same thing in native spaces where hair is just held in high regard, regardless of gender or identity. So certain traits or identities or even social roles aren't unique to women throughout the whole world. And trying to put that label on womanhood or a sort of caveat, not what I want to use, but a sort of um, marker for feminine identity on women in general does harm to all women. Specifically, when you try and say, "Oh, women have XYZ feature," all women have XYZ feature. Anyone who does not have this feature is not a woman. You do harm to you do harm to large swaths of women that you do not intend to. Specifically, we're seeing in the early weeks of March 2023, which is when this video is being recorded, massive amounts of anti-transgender legislature happening all throughout the United States. And this legislature is detrimental to women as a whole, as we are seeing laws being passed which are targeting cross-dressing, even though there is no one specific way that women universally dress throughout all cultures. Cisgender women, transgender women, you will see women of color identify wearing certain garbs. You will see women of certain social subgroups like lesbian women and butch communities who dress a certain way and appear a certain way and have historically appeared a certain way. And to them, femininity looks a certain way that it does not necessarily look and cannot necessarily be written down and represented by these laws. We are seeing that women of color are disproportionately being targeted for having features like facial hair, like thicker eyebrows, or larger, more square jawbones, or larger noses, all features which are just signifiers of femininity for a different culture or a different race, specifically Middle Eastern, North African, African, and South Asian women are being targeted by people who are trying to put definitions on something you cannot define. You cannot say women don't have facial hair when we see large swaths of women all throughout the world who do. This is especially a sort of spit in the face to women everywhere, and myself identifying as a woman of Middle Eastern, North African descent, when I have been told my whole life that you've been targeted for having facial hair or body hair or certain physical features which are not considered to be feminine. Looking at television, looking at magazines, seeing women like the Kardashians who are turning around and turning physical features into a fashion trend. You are seeing thicker eyebrows being sold to you as a fashion trend, or darker skin. You're seeing the cat eye or the fox eye makeup trend, which is meant to mimic East Asian women of color, as becoming trending, as becoming fashionable, becoming in vogue. And as these things are becoming in vogue, you are seeing that the same women who have been penalized their whole lives for looking a certain way or having a certain appearance, or are being physically targeted for displaying features that women have, um, are being now told your body is being sold back to you as a trend, and you need to either pluck your eyebrows or dye your hair or shave or don't shave or tan your skin to be darker or bleach your skin to be lighter, as we are seeing skin bleaching is very prominent in East Asia and South Asia, whereas tanning your skin is very prominent in the West. And putting these labels on what is a woman and what makes femininity feminine is just an impossible thing to do. You cannot say all women look a certain way without excluding large amounts of women all over the world. And seeing female bodies becoming a trend, or female bodies being harmed and being attacked for looking a certain way, appearing a certain way, and living happily, presenting a certain way, is heartbreaking to see. Where during Women's History Month, I think that um, the focus should not so much be on attacking women, any women, cisgender, transgender, women of color, any woman of any social group, of any subgroup or subcommunity, of any ethnicity. I wanted to, this Women's History Month, like talk about not so much feminine suffering, as that is something that has happened quite a bit, as we see, the whole country is grieving, as these laws are being passed that do great harm to large portions of women in the United States. Um, I think this Women's History Month is a month to remember, and a time to remember the fact that womanhood is so much broader and so much more beautiful, and has such a much richer and grander history than just our white picket fence boxes of what legislatures might be putting on paper as what a woman is. Women's History Month is a time to celebrate all women, women of color, women of different ethnicities, women who have immigrated from another country, who are identify as butch lesbians. And we see the history of bull dykes and of women who would ride motorcycles with buzz cut hair and Doc Marten combat boots, parading proudly as women, and very feminine or very butch women who are living in getting strength from and pride from that facet of femininity. Women's History Month is a month to remember that there is no look to womanhood, and that any harm done to the trans community, or any intended harm done to the trans community, harms women as a whole. And that when women stand together and we look at this long, beautiful history, which is what Women's History Month is meant to, it is a time to remember that our history is much larger and much more complex, but also much more beautiful than the way that people would define and put into boxes, than the history people would like to put into boxes on paper as to what a woman is.
No, yeah, I think all of that was very well said. And I completely agree. These laws definitely open up a lot of dangerous topics, especially trying to put legal restrictions on something that, fashion senses, things that people can't control. There's always the economic variable where some people might only have certain clothes available to them. So, like, are they going to get in trouble for that? The genetics are a huge play. And as you were saying, different social norms and physical norms around the world, there's way too many variables to take into account trying to pass a law like this, especially as fashion will evolve into the future. But yeah, I think this is a very important topic to be made aware of. And where could people find more information on these laws, and what they can do to try to help navigate the voting process for these laws in the future?
So every state has different laws that are being passed right now. Currently in Massachusetts, there are no anti-transgender legislature laws that are being voted on, which is a massive win for Massachusetts. But on a national scale, the best thing to do is look up your local, what local laws are being put on the table, as it's not all just cross-dressing or laws. It is also laws on bathroom usage, laws on children in schools, laws on names on ID cards and identification, and who is allowed to transition and when. And this varies state to state and is, as this video is being recorded, currently changing and currently fluctuating during this current voting season. We will be posting some links below or attached to this video in some way. Thanks, Rob. For which will have resources to where you can look this up and where you can educate yourself further on the specifics of the laws in your state or just in other states in the United States that are being affected by these bills.
Yeah, so please check out the links down below so that you can educate yourself in all of these topics. It's very important to make sure you're staying into the loop of what laws are being passed in your immediate area, but also it's important to reach out to, if you know family, friends, other loved ones in other states that these laws might be immediately affecting them. Please reach out to them, see if there's anything you can do. If anything, it's always good to have support and stay strong in the community. But Rosangeline, I'd like to thank you for coming on today and educating us all on this topic and speaking from your heart and letting us know everything that we feel like is important on this subject. But until next time, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. And as always, stay positive.